Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about career readiness and inculcating and bringing career content into the classroom. Some of the fellows, the faculty fellows, should be joining the conversation to talk a little bit about their experience and what they've been working on to bring careers into the classroom. And if not, we can just have an open discussion about what folks are doing. Since this is sort of a teaching topic exchange, this can be an opportunity for folks to sort of discuss, what they have done, what they're thinking about doing, or ask each other, their own best practices. But since we're a small group, why don't we go ahead and just introduce ourselves to one another? Maybe, um, of course, your name and who you are, what you do at UWM, and maybe where you do that. So I'll start as a model, and then we can go from there. So again, my name is Ben Trager. I work in the Center for Student Experience and Talent, specifically working in community engagement and experiential learning. So part of my role is to support academic service learning, internships, on-campus student employment as a learning experience, and then also running and supporting our community of practice, of which the faculty fellows who developed some career readiness content were a part of. I've been here for about 8 years now, and I was lucky enough to do my graduate work here while I was also working in the office. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next since my camera's on. My name's Nicholas Russell. I'm a faculty member in the French program in the Global Department of Global Studies at UWM.
My name is Joan Spies Cobb, and I am a clinical nursing instructor in the College of Nursing. And currently I teach in the clinical setting, so it is like experiential. And I find myself trying to float in the concepts from the classroom into the world setting.
Nice.
I can go next. So my name is Hannah Bridgeland. I am a faculty member in the nursing department also. I currently teach in a lot of their programs. So undergrad program, meaning training RNs, but also I work a lot with the nurse practitioner program.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Ziebert. I'm also with the School of Nursing, and I have been with UWM part-time since 2019, full-time since 2020, and also teach at all levels of the program, undergrad, master's, and the doctorate of nursing practice. And I'll be working with students this coming semester that are in their practicum experiences, and we'll be bringing them together and do some facilitation, a couple of touch points throughout the semester to talk about their experiences and whatnot, and just maybe looking for some ideas on how to generate some good discussions with them.
Wonderful. That sounds great. And then I see one other person joined, Mingyu, I think, and please correct me if I pronounce that incorrectly. We're just going around introducing ourselves, name, where we work, all that.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, great. I work at the Language Resource Center, and yeah, we have undergraduate research students in different languages, and we also have graduate students who have language background, and some of them are teaching assistants in different language programs.
Nice. Okay. So full transparency, I was expecting a few of the fellows to be here today to help with the conversation, but since they're not here, I'm going to pull up a few things to show everyone kind of what we've been working on to provide some context, and then talk through sort of like the why, right? So providing background information of why are career readiness concepts so important right now, right? They're sort of the moment. There's like some just realities that we're facing as an institution of higher education. people keep using the phrase, is college worth it? So I don't know if anyone is a New York Times daily junkie like me, but last year in September, they produced a podcast episode with that title. Um, and people are really going back and forth, and especially young people, is this really worth it? And then what is the value proposition? Um, I don't think career readiness is the only value proposition, and we'd be amiss to really put all of our efforts into that area, but it is something that people are paying more and more attention to. So I think it warrants our attention as well. And so what we've been doing in SET is helping instructors sort of think about what are ways that we can bring career readiness concepts into the classroom in existing courses and even new courses. And so, when was that? In summer of 23, we convened our first cohort of fellows. There were 7 people from really across the university, different areas, schools, and colleges, who had courses that they wanted to bring career readiness in. Some of them already were doing it and wanted to enhance it, and some of them thought, oh, I have a class that this would make a lot of sense with. And our charge to them was to develop uh, some common learning outcomes for career readiness, and then an assessment tool, and then a resource kit so that people who are interested in doing this kind of teaching can go somewhere and have all the resources. So I'm going to pull some of that up. And this is really a preview. We're going to publish the website soon, so you'll be the first group of people to actually see this outside the fellows. So just bear with me for 1 second. Okay, sorry for the delay. I had to find a buried link somewhere. So on the SET website, you'll be able to find very shortly under faculty and staff, it'll turn into saying build a course, and you'll be able to choose careers in the classroom. So we have a little bit of the background information here. Why should people care about this? I just gave my short little soapbox spiel about it. And then also, what is career readiness, to sort of help people sort of wrap their heads around and create a shared understanding of, okay, what does this mean here at UWM? And then below, we have created a rough toolkit that basically will help folks sort of decide, okay, where might I want to look based on some shared traits with the courses that I see listed here. So you'll be able to see the course numbers, where it's taught, the college and the department, who the instructor is. This links to their pages. These are actually all the fellows, by the way, the current cohort of fellows. And then their class size as well. And then when you click on a course, it brings you to the page, gives you a little bit of description of the class, some of the shared learning, some of the specific learning goals, the syllabus, and then some of the key course characteristics here. And then towards the bottom, you can look at different assignments. You can see the examples and then how the assignment is assessed. And that is just going to make sure it's, yep. So it's across the board. I think this is one that hasn't been filled yet, but so that will be the tool that folks can use to sort of think about the career readiness. And then I'm going to show another thing. This is another resource that we will share, and this is getting back towards the point I was making earlier, that students really see faculty. So this is almost scary for people in my role, but they see faculty as their go-to resources for career readiness. And so, not to put pressure on faculty, but I do feel like students see you as the first line of who they're asking for. And so it's really our role in SET to make sure that you have the resources and accessibility that you need. So hold on for one second.
CETL thing?
Sure. We're having someone join us.
Just ignore me.
So, well, here, you can come sit over here. In person with me. So hold on a second. That's okay. Okay, so this is a little bit of the background of the, let me stop sharing here, of what we're doing. But what we like to do for most of the time is talk through sort of like, what are other people doing? And how are you doing this? So if people have some specific thoughts or want to share sort of examples or have questions about, hey, I want to do this, I think this is a forum to express those and rely on us and other folks in the room to really help flesh those ideas out.
Could start off. I'm a part of the World Languages and Cultures Collaboratorium that started last fall, and we organized a kind of professional workshop for students about how they can think about using languages in their careers. And we were a lot of this was very new to us. We hadn't really been thinking about this. And I discovered Ashley Finley's report that she referenced this morning about the career ready graduate and a lot of the competencies that employers are looking for. To me, it seems that it resonates a lot with what we do in the humanities and what we do in the languages. So I'm really interested in highlighting those for students, honing work on those competencies, things like working in teams, being able to work with people from different backgrounds, critical thinking, really like core competencies, rather than practically, things that are oriented towards specific careers. And we have those in the languages too. We have things like business French, which we haven't been able to offer in recent years. I think German has, German for people who are going to work in science backgrounds. Spanish has courses that are training students to work in the medical fields. So those are kind of more specific skills that students can develop for specific careers. But I'm more interested in my own teaching about how I can help students develop those core competencies that a wide range of employers are looking for. But I haven't really gotten started yet. I'm interested. We started to learn about it kind of theoretically last fall. And I'm interested in kind of honing my own teaching in those areas.
Can I ask, what are the courses that you typically teach?
I teach very, humanities oriented courses that are not practical, wouldn't traditionally be thought of as practically applicable. So literature courses, history courses, my area of specialization is before the French Revolution. So it doesn't really sound, very practical for a 20th century, 21st century world. But you would be surprised thinking about technological change, thinking about the shift from manuscript to the printed book in the Renaissance. Those are interesting parallels culturally to what we're going through now. And also just thinking about people from who are functioning in a very different cultural sphere. You think about the Middle Ages, that's a very different cultural sphere that students have to try to navigate and understand. So, that's my background.
Thanks for sharing. I have some initial thoughts that we can use to sort of start the conversation. So you may be familiar with the National Association for Colleges and Employers, NACE. They have a set of career competencies that have been co-identified, right, by like the people in our sphere and then also the people sort of in the employer sphere, like the next step sphere. And there are things that you would think, they're not it's not like a big mystery. They're, critical thinking, tech savviness, collaboration, all those sorts of soft skills that we would think of sort of right away. At UWM, we've also sort of adopted them into what we're calling the Panther Edge competencies, which are 9 different, very similar, easy to name competencies. And so I think one thing that you could do is look at those, and I'll drop some links into the chat and say, okay, these are things that which of these things are applicable to my course? I'm assuming you might be able to pick out many of them, but maybe focus on the ones that are really apparent to start with. And call those out in your learning goals early on in the class and say, we're going to do this in this course, and it's going to help you develop these skills and competencies that employers want. And then throughout the course, is there an assignment or a series of assignments where you can help students sort of make that connection? Oh, I studied how technology evolved in France in the 1800s. What is that telling me about today? And get them to sort of synthesize that. And maybe ask them to do the next step. Like, how would you talk about this in a job interview? How would you, if someone asks you a question about this? Because that's the part that we really see where there's the most need. Our students have the knowledge, right? Like they've got the skills, they're doing the things. People here are doing all the things we need them to do. It's just about asking a few questions to get them with that translation part. So that could be a good sort of first step to test the waters of what that might feel like for you in your class. I don't know, do you have any other thoughts?
Hi, folks. Sorry, I'm joining you from Ben's computer because I'm also trying to be on a EPA funding webinar at the same time. So yeah, I think Ben is making a really good point, and even just to even like in a more tangible way, I would say providing space for students to articulate themselves the skills. So helping them to develop like resume bullet points that show how in your course they developed collaboration skills, right? Like describing a project-based work. Because like Ben said, they really do have the skills, but we haven't helped the students translate that into this is what this looks like on your resume, so how you write it, or this is how you articulate it in a job interview.
Yeah, thanks. That's helpful.
I think another thing too, and this could be like version 2.0, but I think it's definitely both and, right? Like there might be ways that you could maybe bring in some people from the business world, or I'm using business really broadly, but like the professional space into your class who might have graduated with a degree that's similar, and they can then talk about how did their education in this particular field sort of prepare them, and what advice might they have for someone who's studying this thing that they really love, but maybe is trying to figure out like, how do I apply this if I don't want to stay in academia? That could be a, a really big eye opener for students to help them be like, oh, okay, I think I have a path now. Like I can do these things that I love. Like I can study history. That's what I study, but I can find a way if I don't want to be a history professor or a history teacher to really integrate that into my professional life.
Yeah, the World Languages and Cultures Collaboratorium is planning to do an alumni panel in the spring. So hopefully we can work that kind of framework into that event.
That sounds great. And if you want support with that, our office can provide that. So
Yes,
let us
we
know.
do.
Okay. Other thoughts on what people do or how they integrate this, or maybe how they're thinking about integrating it that we can discuss as a group?
I have a question. I teach project management, and I'm trying to have the students do a project simulation in the class. So I actually was just emailing to find out if the students get access to Microsoft Project. If I get access to Microsoft Project. I don't know if that's kind of in scope of what this conversation's about, but I just feel if they left this university knowing, having done a project on Microsoft Project, that would really, be a nice skill they could put on their resume.
Yeah, I don't know. Laura's asking, so she might find out quickly for you.
Yeah, like I saw Microsoft Planner, but then it's like I have files from McGraw-Hill in Microsoft Project that we could just use and do a simulation. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, back to the idea of career readiness and the certain skills, like being really intentional then to say, hey, by the way, you use Microsoft Project. This is a skill that people are looking for. You might want to think about articulating that. How would you articulate this if someone asks you, what skills do you have in project management or technology or using software? Is it on your resume? Did you put it on your resume? Like building that into your course, some final reflection or something like that could be really useful for students.
Thank you. Yeah, like our course after they take it is there's like an exam you take. There's like a CPA exam for accounting, but for project management, you take a PMP exam and you need 40 hours of training. So they qualify for that aspect after taking our course. So trying not to harp on them, but it's a really unique experience that they get this awesome course that qualifies them for that. Normally employers are like paying for this course or it's out of pocket. But then they're just like, what's a PMP? Why do we need it? And so it's like, this will like set you apart if you get this credential, but they're not career ready. Like they're not thinking about that.
Sheila, it's funny, I was thinking about this before you mentioned this project management course. So we held a luncheon with faculty and employers not too long ago. And at the table I was at, the issue of project management came up. And the employers, there was like 3 of them at the table. They were all like, we hire so many project managers. We're looking for project manager. One was from an engineering firm and another was from like a bank. And, And it was really interesting because it struck me that the faculty who were at the table, they had a vague idea what project management was, but couldn't really define it. And the employers were more than eager to come and talk to classes about what does a project manager do, and what does it take to get a job in project management? And so I just think you would be, I don't know if you incorporate corporate partners into your classroom space, but we had some great partners show up to that luncheon that were eager to talk to students in the project management space. It's funny, one of the things that occurred to me, because they were all talking about how they needed project managers, I thought, if we gave every student at graduation a note card that said, define project management on this note card, we may get exactly 0 back with a really good definition. So even if they've taken courses in project management, so I just feel like that's like one thing to think about, like bringing some of those folks in. I think the simulation is a great idea.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I
also,
brought in, yeah, I
and it
brought in
helps give
15
the
speakers
students-
last year. I brought
and
in,
give
we
students
couldn't,
a-
everybody wants to talk about project management. So now I'm thinking I'll do panels and then
Yeah.
give professional development units, all these speakers that want to come in. So we're working on expanding. It's really just one class that we offer. There's actually one at the master level and one undergrad, and it's a supply chain. It's part of supply chain, but project management is just needed in engineering, it's needed in IT, it's needed in healthcare, it's
Yeah.
needed everywhere. So we're getting there. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be in touch. If you could send me your name, that would.
Sure.
Thanks.
This is an idea that I had brought up earlier in Morgan and Kim's presentation, because we were talking about the NACE career readiness skills. And I had brought up that in my undergrad program, we had to, as students, seek out professional contacts ourselves, whether through social media or through email, and kind of set up our own interviews with them, like in kind of year 1, year 2. And then like by our junior, senior year, we were able to kind of tap on their shoulders and ask if they wanted to be on our thesis panels. I was in a very arts focused program, so that obviously lends itself to critique having professional contacts, but I could see how that might not apply to every field.
I really like that idea of encouraging students to build a network, especially like in the sort of the safety net of like a classroom space, right? And maybe you give them a bit more direction of, hey, here's what you could talk to them about. Here are the career competencies. Like maybe you use these to guide. Could be another way to get students to sort of engage with people like in a very genuine yet like well thought out way. Carolyn, I see your hand.
Yeah, I like that suggestion. And in fact, we offer a leadership course in our graduate nursing program, and we have them create a LinkedIn profile. And then they also have to do an interview with a leader. And so that also then forces them to see, does that leader have a LinkedIn profile? What's on that profile? How many connections do they have? What do they post? So I think that's one start that maybe people could do. And then in terms of the competencies that we learned about this morning, I think we need to be transparent with our students and share those with them and say, especially I'm thinking of nursing. Everybody wants to start an IV, or everybody wants to put in a Foley catheter. Those technical skills you can learn on the job. But these are the other skills. I hate that word soft skills that sometimes you hear tossed around, because communication is not a soft skill. It's a very difficult skill to learn. But I think if we share those with students and say, look, this is research, this is evidence-based. Nursing is in evidence-based practice. I'm going to be more intentional about sharing those competencies with students and saying, look, this is what people are looking for.
I agree. I think we in experiential learning and service learning, you know, a lot of times we fail to even tell the students like, hey, you're doing service learning, you're doing experiential learning. So I think being really intentional, like you just said, to make sure that we tell the students this is what you're doing and is a really good step as well.
Yeah, I just think they need help connecting those dots.
Any other thoughts? People maybe came here with some, you know, wanting to gain some ideas or have some current classes that they're thinking about if they want to share. This is what I'm working on. Again, this is a space to sort of toss around some ideas and get some feedback.
I think what Carolyn mentioned, like I've really pushed getting the students to connect on LinkedIn. Like I had them stand up and walk around with the QR code, and apparently the technology was updated. So they figured out a new way where they could all connect. And being the instructor, that was a little awkward for me because I didn't want them to feel they had to connect with me on LinkedIn. So I kind of just stood in the background. But every week, because we brought in all these speakers, I'm like, look, every speaker wanted to hire them. Pretty much nobody really was looking for work or they had something. So they were a little shy about that. But the employers were ready to give them internships that were like telling them. And then I'm like, connect with this employer on LinkedIn. So I don't know. And I heard it's talked a lot about at the university, LinkedIn in the first 2 years, but I'm not sure if that really is the case.
So I actually met with someone from LinkedIn once, and they gave me some really good advice on how to incorporate LinkedIn into a course. And it seemed so obvious, but once I read it, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things that they suggested, because, you know, oftentimes students aren't ready to like use it as a job search tool or even like really a job networking tool. So one of the pieces of advice this woman gave me was to encourage students to not just connect with people, but connect with organizations and then comment on posts that organizations make. Sometimes organizations will make like posts about things happening at their organization or news releases, and commenting or asking questions in those posts to try to begin a dialogue in like a really informal way can help them develop a relationship where there's not a lot of pressure on either side to like, I'm looking for a job, or I want this from you, or I want that from you. It's just like beginning a conversation and encouraging the student to lean into their own curiosity about organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, I thought that was really good advice. So I try to do that with students in my courses.
Do you have them say like, oh, go and use like comment like go find an organization that you might be interested in
Exactly.
and comment maybe something related to our class or
I just, you know, if you see something on an organization's LinkedIn profile, find something that you are curious about. I just try to encourage them to lean into their curiosity about an organization they're interested in and ask a question or comment on that particular post of sorts.
Mm-hmm. That's a really low stakes assignment.
It's really low stakes. Yeah. But it also trains them in how to use LinkedIn as a tool to investigate organizations.
See, part of what I'm doing for this project management course is having them find news articles each week about the topic that we're studying. But last year it was challenging, like we did there. So maybe that would be an easier way to do it. Start with LinkedIn, go on LinkedIn. I don't know, maybe find a company you like and articles they're posting. I don't know. It's such a big playing field, like the internet, like find something online. And then we bring in the library, and Biz Times comes in to talk about credible news sources so they can decipher like what is real news and fake news, and then try and determine if it's relevant and helpful in what we're learning and applying it.
Yeah, and once you go to a organization's LinkedIn profile, you're just a few clicks away from exploring what alums also work there from our institution. I was just doing this today, actually. Eli Lilly is going to have a presence in, I think, the Kenosha area, and the question came up of like, oh, do we have alums there? And I was like, okay, I have to try to remember, how do I find UWM alums at Eli Lilly? And that's a good skill for students to have if they're interested in an organization, to be able to find a fellow alum, because people want to help other Panthers want to help Panthers. So
I dropped a link to the main page of NACE's career readiness competencies, and there's a couple of links there that have the PDFs of like the icons they use and like a very short poster version. It says poster, but it's like an 8x11 sheet, sort of summarizes. So that's an easy way to access that stuff. I mean, it sounds like just from the conversation that we've had today that these career competencies and sort of thinking of ways to bring those into courses, low stakes ways, is one way. And it could be as simple as just calling them out and then developing an assignment or two that sort of helps students connect to those. And then also this like networking relationship piece, I think is really crucial here at UWM, especially because we're an access institution and maybe many students don't have the typical access to networks that maybe at, more affluent schools. And so focusing on, okay, how do we make it easier for our students to build networks, in the time that they're investing in their education could be another way to think about supporting career readiness for students here. Any other thoughts or comments? If not, I appreciate everyone dropping in today, and thanks for your flexibility and sort of us figuring out our format here. Laurie and I we both work in the Center for Student Experience and Talent, and we're both really interested in supporting folks bringing career readiness and experiential learning into their classes. So we exist as a resource for you all. So if you even just want to have a follow-up conversation to think more deeply about this, that's part of the reason why we exist here. So please don't hesitate to connect with us.
And then Sheila, I'm going to send you, there's the gentleman I was talking about is Jeff Loesch. I can't think of the name of the engineering firm he works at, but he's an alum and he just recently hired 2 more new UWM graduates. So I'm going to send you his contact information. And if you ever wanted someone to come and talk about project management, he'd probably be happy to do it.
Thank you. That would be great.
All right.
Yeah, we're just mulling around how we're gonna roll out the course. So yeah, if I could talk to the 2 of you more, that would be really helpful.
Thank you, Ben and Laurie.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Laurie.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. Bye.